Well, I should welcome you to this one because this is introducing everyone to producer Liam. Liam is the producer for this podcast. This is obviously a big budget production. We've got a producer, but today we had Patient Zero out. So welcome to Coffee Break.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm actually here every single time.
Yeah, well, welcome back. What do we think of this week's episode with Dan Dick?
Dan was fantastic. You know, this is not his first time, not his first rodeo, but you know, it's always an insight.
What I like about him is he's got that perfect balance of being informative but also hilarious.
It's true.
He knows his movie references. He's good at making coffee. He's good at business, and he's good at being funny.
Yeah. I mean, we opened up. I was surprised that he came from a Midwest background. You know, Midwest America.
Yeah.
I think we need to. I want to kind of press him on that because he's seen both sides.
Yeah. Salt Lake City is I only found out about its existence in 2010 because I follow the NBA. So the Utah Jazz, that's their only major league sporting team as I'm aware. Yeah, they don't have.
That's in the wrong person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to confirm.
Unless they have a hockey team. I think they might be getting an ice hockey team. But anyway. Yeah, so Salt Lake City, I had no idea as well. It was a good reminder.
No, absolutely. It's just kind of, it's surprising that someone that's so, Melbourne forward with coffee comes from kind of the complete opposite background, you know? Yeah, it's amazing. It's good.
Yeah. Other things that I found interesting through the podcast is that he obviously is expanding his business in kind of a tough time. And that's what the episode was about. I mean, sometimes we lose focus of it during the episode because we just yak on so much. But I mean, I guess that was the essence of the whole thing. It's like, these economic cycles happen. As we said, you know, we're going through one now. There was the one in the 90s, the recession that Australia had to have. It was just interesting. I think he had some really interesting takes on it. He's like, I mean, I can sort of maneuver this. I can still create opportunities. And to be honest, a lot of people can still create opportunities. Some industries, unfortunately, going to experience downturns, and we are as well. But you can still compete. You can still grow. You can still do things. You can still be happy and content is kind of what coming into it I wanted people to come away with, but also be informed on what you can do better or what you can navigate and how you can kind of see things like, for example, the rent on commercial sites. It's like, all right, well, maybe we can take a bit of more, we can kind of be a bit more selective, business people about doing that. And what are some of the risks you take? And one thing he said about, when the landlord does the fit out for you, but then they charge, they obviously make money out of it.
That's gold. I never even thought about that kind of combination or having that conversation or that's expected.
Yeah.
100%. And I think just the topic alone is a little bit I don't want to say it's dry or it's a bit headline. It's in the deep text of the newspaper for me, cost of living. But I think the conversation is, I think it's good to have and that we push it forward, It's like Dan said today, what did he say? It was a luxury.
An affordable luxury.
An affordable luxury.
Yeah.
And that totally is it. But, my kind of takeaway and the things that I started pondering about, listening to you guys talk today on the pod was that, it's even more important to have these things that bring people together, Coffee being such a, we talk about being an expensive kind of an affordable luxury, but, the things that you get out of it, I think, are the community aspects. You're going to a location, you're going to a thing, you get to share it with the people. And I think coming into harder times that those elements become even more pertinent, Yeah.
And one other thing while we got the bag here as well, I don't know that coffee is from countries like Papua New Guinea or countries like Timor-Leste. I don't know that a lot of people get them overseas because, like we said, there's the proximity between here in Australia. We're obviously in the Pacific. Just north of us, you got Papua New Guinea, Indonesia. Timor-Leste is a small country. Australia's got a lot of involvement. We've had a lot of sort of negative involvement with some of these countries in the past as well. A lot of World War II, that Australia sort of fought in, the battles that we fought in were in Papua New Guinea on the Kokoda track. And that was fought against the Japanese at the time. And Are
you saying that like our history with these kind of locations is now why we have relationships there and other parts of the world don't?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously proximity is one element to it.
Right.
But Australia in geopolitical terms is a middle power. So, we're not, and this is getting off the confines of coffee, so I'll keep it quick, but we're a middle power, not a major power. So some of these countries or battles that we're even talking about, they might not be taught in history lessons in America or in Europe. So, I mean, I guess if we've got any listeners from those parts of the world, they're probably some may be even learning about it for the first time now. But these places, they grow excellent coffee. They've got wonderful cultures that probably don't get as much airtime as we should. And Australia's role politically relating to them is that right now we engage with them a lot. There's a lot of sort of funding. Australia is going to take climate refugees from certain countries that are affected by rising sea levels that are all in the Pacific, and some of them grow coffee. But anyway, back to the coffee stuff.
What I'm getting from that is that we're spoilt once again with these incredible choices.
Yeah. And these are affordable coffees, but it's something that, we enjoy here because of proximity. But I kind of hope that other parts of the world get to try them as well. I don't know if they do. I could be talking out of my ass here, but
I mean, Dan, so we tasted, I was lucky enough to get I gave myself a little, you guys had 2 cappuccinos today with this born and raised Papua New Guinea blend, and it rocks. It's everything you're talking about. It's funky, it's fruity, it was absolutely delicious. I hope the rest of the world finds this.
Yeah, but it's like, that's a coffee that could be part of like a world barista competition routine as part of like a milk blend or something.
Is it quite expensive? Is this on the higher end?
No. This is a very accessible, affordable bag of coffee. So and it's every bit as elite as Colombian, Brazilian,
absolutely,
Bolivian. It's specialty coffee. So I mean, that's something I'll probably research after today. It's like I didn't question myself on that before. I wonder if other people get to enjoy this coffee as much as we do in Australia. So it'll be interesting to see.
Surely, I think if you bring the love to it, the rest of the people end up kind of. Yeah, they fall in love with the culture that comes behind it. And I think that's like the biggest part of like, we talk about this every week on the pod, but the Melbourne kind of structure is spreading around the world from not just the coffee standpoint, it's like the service standpoint and like what menu items are and what your actual experience is in the cafes. And that's the same thing with coffees, like I think that's the beautiful part of this pod, right? It's just coffee.
It's just coffee. Yeah. But it's interesting to expand that on an Asian standpoint because there's pretty good specialty coffee grown in China now. There's a Cup of Excellence held in Taiwan now. So, there's coffee's popping up in all regions of the world. New processes kind of make it easier to make better coffee in all sorts of places. So that was one thing I wanted to bring up on Coffee Break as well.
For sure. And I think they should. Like, like we said, we've got this coffee from Papua New Guinea and it's like, if that's where it's coming from, I'm sure the competition of quality and what's going on over there is just more thriving. That's where it's coming from. So if there's more competitions and more things to celebrate such a beautiful product, there should be.
One other thing I kind of like about having Coffee Break is that we can sort of reflect on things, talk about it differently than we do in the podcast. And I think one is, we're tackling this pretty hectic topic because like, have you ever lived in a time where there's been so much like pessimism about life? Because I find it particularly on my phone, maybe we just look at our phones too much, but like, from a financial standpoint, from a conflict standpoint, there's, a few wars going on right now in the world and it's like, is there a looming war coming? And, I feel like, and one area this relates to randomly enough is like people are having far less babies nowadays because like, as a young person, let me ask you, would you have a baby right now? You're how old?
I'm dirty 30, my boy.
And how old were your parents when you were born?
Younger than that.
Exactly. So, but we're less prepared as a generation to have children. And it's like subconsciously, I think it's this thing of like, okay, well, we're significantly less prosperous than we were before. tough conversation to have, and I don't really want to bring it up again in future podcasts for a while, because I think we've done the death out of that with, coffee prices and this subject and stuff like that after today. But it's kind of like, all right, well, that happens, but things work in cycles as well. There's still opportunities out there. And one thing I worry about, and we're talking about Starbucks and Luckin Coffee, is like, and the supermarkets as well, wealth is becoming so concentrated in the world today. So many more billionaires were created during COVID. Billionaires across the world, increased their wealth dramatically after COVID. These big companies are increasing their market share, and it kind of goes to the point of why you should support a small business, because once we give companies, individuals, governments that level of power, I don't know if there's any taking it back. And so that's why I like the small acts. I'm a big fan of paying in things cash, like
you're cash man.
Cash man, but I don't think we should go to a society where it's entirely bank cards.
Cardless.
I don't want to be in a society where we're surveyed in every single way. And I don't want to be in a society where I can only get a coffee from Starbucks, because once your purchasing power becomes more when you're a big company like that, you can squeeze the little man out. And that's why I kind of feel like having this podcast and, flogging the discussion is that we don't want to concentrate the wealth in the coffee industry. We want to spread it out, because you, the consumer, win.
Absolutely. I think, we're here in Melbourne. We're known for that alleyway cuisine, these like pockets of gold that are just like absolute consistent. Like no matter what corner of the city you go, you can kind of find this collection of like different cultures and experiences. And that's what we're built on. And I think, like we said, I think that will forever spread. And I think, as long as we just keep talking about the little guy,
And we, you and me, are in a very fortunate position. Like, we get to do what we like. We're very privileged, actually. We get to do what we like. We're safe. We get to, at a coffee shop now, and that's also just an absolute privilege. And it could all be taken away so quickly. And a lot of people aren't as fortunate to be able to do those sorts of things. So I acknowledge that. But then that could be people in developing countries. That could also be people that live in this country. But as I spoke about, there's a lot of people that work in sort of office jobs that don't like their job. And, even though they earn a sustainable living, it's like, it must be a grind to do that. And, I think we've all been in that position before, where you don't work in a job, where you work in a job that you don't like. And that was another thing that it's kind of like, I think about it after. It's like, it's good to hear that and say that, because it kind of allows me to acknowledge to myself that actually I'm pretty lucky.
Absolutely. I love chatting about that on the pod as well. It's like, what's the advice that you give to someone who isn't loving their kind of day-to-day, and how to make that change? And also coming from people like you guys that did do the thing. You made the jump. You committed to the dream, and that's terrifying for so many people. I think it's all relative. There's people, like we're saying, that not as fortunate in, it's just the level of, like, we have nothing to complain about really. But I think talking about those things and how to approach them and actually tackling them, rather than it being like something to avoid, or like, this is just how it is. Everything's changeable, and everything, if you come together, I think can,
Yeah, and like this podcast probably isn't as enjoyed universally as, I don't know, like a Joe Rogan podcast or something.
Not yet. Not yet.
But it's good to have a resource on those topics. So if you don't have someone that you can go and ask this question comfortably about, I don't know, rent, or how do you run a coffee shop, it's good to have this resource. You can always flick this episode back on, get Dan's opinion, get Kirk's dumb opinion, and sort of have that as a resource. So,
and email us.
Yeah, you should. You should absolutely email us, because
the point of this is connection, right? So like you guys should, if there's anyone with any questions about anything, it's not just like we're putting this up as like just into the ether. It's to build this.
And you can help us build a bigger community. You can help us make better podcasts. You can help us make more content that you enjoy by emailing us and letting us know what it is. So it's not like it's just there for show and tell. Flick us through an email.
Absolutely. Please email us at hello Hello at itsjustcoffeepod.com. And please engage with it. Like I'm starting to put out some like kind of little snippets from each episode on our socials. Check us out. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube. You can see our beautiful faces.
Thank you. Your beautiful face. Another thing as well, the 2-friend rule applies here. If you enjoy this podcast, if you enjoy the coffee break, go and tell 2 friends because, we get more multipliers. We can build this. We can make it better. It's not really going to cost you anything in the long run. You might have to put up with an ad here or two in the future, but, we want to grow this. The more we grow this, the more we can do better for you. So tell 2 friends.
Absolutely. The more we can get other people involved and spread our network, And
we've got some cool stuff coming. So I think the boys are going overseas soon. So there'll be you and me will be sort of manning this. Might have to do a few dial-in from abroad sessions. But when they get back, we've got some big things planned. I think live event is in question here. And we've got some cracking guests lined up as well. I think we're starting to hit our stride chemistry-wise. Me and Rowan connect a lot more. You and me know how to do things. Everything's getting a lot more quick. So I'm looking forward to what's
That's
coming.
Feeling good. I'm loving this, and I'm once again very grateful to be doing this. And we're all figuring it out.
Well, let's wrap it up there for coffee break. I hope you've enjoyed your coffee break time. Lovely to introduce you to everyone so they can see the face. As always.
It's just coffee. And this has been a coffee break.
Been a coffee break.
Okay, get another one done.
Thank you. Here we go.